and welcome to the Blockleaders podcast with me, Gillian Gottsell. Today, my guest is Matt Hawkins, who's the CEO and founder of Cudo Ventures. Matt, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Gillian. Good to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm delighted to be here because our paths have sort of been crisscrossing in a tangential way over the years. But I was just going through your LinkedIn preparation for this conversation, and I see quite a number of your previous businesses have been acquired. So how does it make you feel to sell your startups? Or is it a challenge? Is it the challenge of new business that keeps you on your toes? Or do you feel sad when you exit from your other businesses?
It's always sad when you sell a company, although it may be the right decision at that point in time. But being a founder is kind of, you treat it like your baby, and it's your dream and it's your goal. And it's like you've kind of taken it through school and college and university, and it's like, okay, now time to move on to the next next level. It's matured, it's grown, and now it can have a relationship with someone else. So it's a little bit like parent letting the child go, and that's good. I think as long as you get to that point with a business where it does get to a certain size, and you get to a point where actually, as part of another company, or if it's merged with another platform or business, then that's the right way to grow it faster. Because you may hit a skills limit or a financial limit or an audience limit by partnering and becoming part of another entity. So usually it's a trade sale or some sort of integration. Then actually everything that you've built becomes access to a much wider market. So it actually feels, although when that happens, you kind of feel a loss a little bit. But actually you also see, great, now it's growing, and it's going to the next stages of where you wanted to get it to.
And I presume then you prefer to be at the startup edge of things rather than working in some middle layer in a big conglomerate.
Yes, certainly. For me, it's about, well, I think we'll chat about it, but it's about doing good on that side. It's about creating innovative products, and building things that are gonna ultimately help people in one way or another. And as technology moves on, and you see every 5-10 years and especially every 20 years, you get major technological shifts. Then you can build things in different ways. You can build them more efficiently, or you can take advantage of new technologies and build those businesses that weren't possible when you started your last business.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that's why I always find it's a good thing.
Okay, and you started to allude to that, and it's a theme in your career as well. A lot of what you do, you mentioned already, revolves around making the world a better place. Where does this philanthropic desire come from, and what inspires you to do better?
I think it's probably, so when we sold the last business, which was a data center and cloud company, we were kind of seeing the negative effects of the cloud industry. We worked with over 100 data centers around the world. A lot of them were in coal or gas burning environments. We're seeing empty spaces with data centers, maybe 50% empty. And then also the way you build inside a data center, a lot of them were doing it really inefficiently. So you've got all this waste, and the data center impact is kind of 3 to 4% of the world's carbon emissions at the moment. With AI, it's growing significantly. It could be at 10% by the end of the decade.
Yeah.
So we all live in this world, and we've got to protect it. So that was within my skill set. Now, it's probably the best thing that I know how to do. And then the other element is really just trying to do some good from a charity perspective. If we can use the knowledge that we've built from doing our previous businesses and do some good with it, then I think that's a good place. I think once you probably see that with, I don't know, at least half the people I'd say that have built and sold businesses, you get to the point where, okay, how can I use these skills to do a bit of good in the world as well?
Well, not everybody does that, I have to say. You're a good example. I'm hoping people will listen and follow you. So tell me, you also had an example of how you're helping charities in a really practical way if they have funds to help them monetize the funds.
Yeah, so there's one thing that we've built. So what we've built here is a platform that enables anybody to kind of monetize computing capacity, as long as they're in sustainable locations, as in renewable energy, and they can provide reliable infrastructure. Then we want to democratize cloud computing. And the idea was that it shouldn't just be the hyperscalers of Amazon and Google and the other providers. Actually, everybody should have a chance to contribute and everybody should have a chance to earn from it, really, as long as we're providing the quality that's needed. So what we've done is we built it's called a federated cloud platform, essentially. It is a network where anyone can become a cloud provider. And that's what Kudos does, providing it into the blockchain and Web3 space, but also traditional AI companies are buying capacity. So what we've now done is set up a way for charities to actually buy hardware. So a lot of charities have a lot of funds, which they raise, but they may just then put it in kind of a low interest account while they still continue to raise, but they'll put their savings into an account and it's not really growing for them quite often. So what we can do is we can enable charities to actually buy hardware, become a cloud provider. We help them and manage it for them. And then that means, let's say an enterprise is currently spending money with Amazon, actually they could be spending it with British Heart Foundation or the a cancer charity. So the money that's previously going to a hyperscaler, actually all that money is going straight to charity. So it's fantastic for an enterprise and people that are spending in the space. And from a charity's perspective, they're actually making their savings work for them.
Do you have to make the link between the business and the charity, or how do businesses know to use the charity's space?
Yes. So at the moment, we kind of pair them up together, but we will make that available online. So you can essentially choose which charities you want to support.
Wow, that's cool. I mean, I'm sure lots of businesses are looking to have ESG policies and all the rest of it, and they're looking for different ways. And oh, that's really cool. Okay, so you mentioned there, like you came from a Web 2 world, but you mentioned Kudos is looking at Web 3 and blockchain and crypto. When did you first come across blockchain and crypto?
It was actually Bitcoin we got involved with probably back in 2012, 2013.
Ooh.
And we were having miners come to us because we were a cloud and data center provider. We were having miners come to us asking, can we get space inside the data center? And that's when we sort of started first learning about it. Actually, my CTO was mining Bitcoin back in 2010 as well.
Wow.
Back in the early days. And so we worked with some of the people that were doing mining that were looking for space. We actually had the first customer ask, I think it was probably about 2014, maybe, asked for a megawatt of capacity for a Bitcoin miner. And then all of a sudden he went quiet and we didn't hear from him a few months. And then he sent us a picture and he'd bought one of, the early miners weren't that reliable. He'd bought one of the early miners, tested it in his house, and it had burnt his house down. So
no, I didn't say he sent a picture of him in a boat sipping a cocktail because he'd retired already.
Yeah, no, unfortunately not.
Oh dear.
So so that's probably when we first got involved. But actually properly getting involved was when the last business was acquired back in 2016.
Okay.
So that's when we really got.
Is this the Kudos?
Yes.
Yes. So tell me about that then, what that does and what it is.
Yeah. So Kudos was set up really to democratize cloud computing, to enable anyone in the world. We wanted ultimately we want to get to the point where they've got phone, mobile, PlayStation, for anyone to be able to earn from their computing that they've got. And we want people to be able to save money to make computing more accessible for everybody. So what we want to do is normalize access to computing. So whether you're in Africa or other locations where, as a student or any level that you might be in society, you've got access to cost-effective computing. And even as AI is expanding, it's more important that everybody really has access to this type of resource and technology, because AI is now the answer to education. It's the answer to learning at home. You can learn any language you want. It can assist you in any task that you want. So we really want everybody to be able to access it. So that's what Kudos essentially does. Is it's a technology that enables anyone to become a cloud provider for computing resources, but also anyone to be able to access it. But because it's not just the large cloud providers, it means that it's significantly more cost effective. And then everybody that's in the network kind of takes a pack that they are in sustainable. So they're running in renewable energy. Typically it's wind, hydro or solar. on the network. So we don't want to have that environmental impact as well. So the blockchain, think of it, it doesn't matter which application or which blockchain you want to build on. You can access those computing resources directly from your smart contract, and with projects and partners that we work with directly in the token. So you can natively access computing capacity in a distributed and decentralized manner straight from anything that you build and develop.
Okay, so that was 2016 you set that up. Can you give me an idea of the size of the business now?
Yes, so we have thousands of GPUs on the network that anyone can access and build. We've probably got about just under 40 validators around the world that run the core network. We've got, from a compute perspective, providers in most of the regions, core regions around the world. We took the approach that you've got to take the global approach from day one. And from a spend perspective, there's some very large deals which are coming across at the moment. You'll see very significant growth kind of over the next weeks and few months of large companies that are consuming compute resources.
And did you raise money through a token sale or anything like that?
Yes, we opened up the token at the beginning. It was just $3 million that was as available as a private sale for some individual purchases.
And how about now? How do you have an idea of your turnover and revenue now with the company?
The revenue, it's going to be based on some of the deals that are just coming across.
Okay.
But it will be somewhere between 10 to 20 million this year.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so you're large. You're big. How many people do you employ?
There's just over 40.
Wow. Okay, so a sizable organization. You'll be ready to sell it soon, won't you? Is it almost a grown up?
There's a lot of growth to be done.
Okay.
Significant growth to be done. Yeah.
So then,
we spent a long time building the technology, and
yeah.
that's really when you want to then.
And now you're
scale
rolling it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's really cool. You're not going to run away now. You've
No.
invested too much time, and that's why people say, going back to the child and parenting analogy, when teenagers are really tough to live with, whatever. As parents, you're not going to throw them out because you spent too much time, invested too much time in these kids, and so
Yeah.
you're right out the storm. So that's where you
Exactly.
are. Although I'm sure there's no teenage tantrums in your business.
And then also, Kudos is owned by the community.
Okay.
Itself.
Okay, excellent. So tell me now, the reason why we got together today to have this conversation was talk about confidential computing. So tell me a little bit about your views on confidential computing, given that we're in a world of Web3 and blockchain, everything's all open and transparent. So what is the role of confidential computing and why is it important, particularly with blockchain technology?
It's fantastic that everything is open. What that does is it enables people to innovate much faster. They have access to everybody's ideas and everything that's shared on there. But it doesn't give, if someone wants to build an application, it's then open for everybody else to build. Whereas if I go for artificial intelligence, because that's really what's going to change development, in my view, in blockchain over the next few years. Previously, you have had to build the whole smart contract yourself, and you've had to put the technology and the logic into it, or you put it into the chain. Whereas with artificial intelligence, you've now got the ability that the smart contract can essentially be the orchestrator, as in it's the application that is putting the requests into AI, and AI can actually be making those decisions. And if you think of in AI, the prompting is essentially the coding in AI, where you're asking it what you want. So the inference, when you're asking to have things built, actions to be taken. I think you're going to see a integration between smart contracts and AI from that perspective, where the prompt is actually going to be the IP. Right. And in confidential computing, that means that you can keep that element of it confidential. So you can be building the smart contracts, you can keep your prompt confidential, which is really what your IP is going to be. And then AI is going to continue to do and make all those decisions. And those decisions could be even things as simple as, exchanging tokens from multiple blockchains and multiple exchanges, because you can just give it the logic of that. It can be doing predictions and analysis. It could be any type of task that you do today and you have to code it today. I think you're going to see over the next 24 months or so that pretty much every one of them can be done as a prompt.
Okay, I hadn't considered that before. The prompt is the code and that's your IP. That's what you want to keep confidential. So your partnership with Secret Network, how did that come about?
I mean, they are in the same communities that we are as well.
Mhm.
We've been talking to their team for a long time. You know, we all started in within a relatively similar time frame of each other. And it's a natural progression, I think, because the confidentiality, like I said, you know, you need that element of IP if you're going to build certain types of applications.
Mhm.
So if you think from a DEX is fantastic, it's all brilliant and everyone's open, but also centralized exchanges are very popular as well. So, and then they don't make that code available. So you kind of need that openness plus the confidential element, depending on what applications people are building. Now, from an AI perspective, obviously that is inherently in there. You know, if you think of it, you're just talking to a brain and you can't see that code. But actually, if we put all the prompts public, then that's going to be a problem. You've lost your advantage. So it's a natural one for us to work with, whether it's AI or whether it's actual traditional computing as well.
Mhm.
You know, there's other information like data that you want to keep confidential inside there, even if you're offloading computing to traditional computing, you know, and running computing tasks and bringing them back to the smart contract. So it was a natural way for us to be able to service all types of computing from on-chain.
Okay. And where are you in that relationship with Secret? Where are you on the roadmap? Where are you?
Yeah, so we've added it so that Secret can be used to pay for compute on the Kudos network. And we've been so you can just go on there and buy traditional, you know, computing capacity without having to do it through Secret. You can do it directly on chain on our platform or via a GUI. And also, we're working on integrating it with scripts and applications that are out there, dApps, that people can directly consume the resources. So, because it's kind of think of it as a set of tools, then it
Mhm.
makes it very easy for people to be able to build applications on top of. And then the aim is, you know, what we should be doing is really doing some hackathons and getting people to build some really good applications. So I think AI is going to be the one where people are really going to see the benefit of the confidentiality, because still in a smart contract, you need to keep that code relatively clean. You know, if you're running it on chain and relatively small, whereas actually a prompt can still be very small, but can be very powerful. So I think, you know, that would be the best hackathons I think that we could do next.
I was going to ask, that was the question. I was going to say, what will happen in the future? So you think hackathons will be the way to define how you'll work together and how people will build apps using Secret and Kudos?
I find that the community, you know, we've got a fantastic community. Secret have got a fantastic community. They're going to come up with ideas that we've never come up with and think of better ways to do things than what we thought of. So it's better that we give the tools and the functionality to do it, and then
Yeah.
they come up with the great ideas.
Well, you said that at the very start. You said what you enjoyed about building was that things you built 20 years ago and things you might build now, you wouldn't have been able to do the things 20 years ago because the technology didn't exist. So the
Yeah.
same way tapping into the communities with their ideas and bringing it forward is very clever. Wow, that's very interesting. What excites you most about the future?
Well, I'm a technologist at the end of the day, so
Mm,
it's whatever technology is coming next. I think I'm going to go back to AI again. I think that is going to change over the next couple of years. It's going to change everything we do from a day-to-day perspective. You're already seeing a big change. If you think it's a little bit ironic because originally when people were looking at what AI is going to do, they thought, okay, it's not going to take over the creative tasks.
mm,
You know, it's not going to take over things like art or, you know, poems and things like that. It's been the complete opposite. It's actually taken over all the creative ones straight away. It now does video and art and images, you know, and creates material. So robotics is going to be a big one. I
mhm.
don't know if you've seen some of the robotics that are coming out. There's one that's just been released there, like $16,000 for a fully functional robot that you can have in your house, which is going to be ready at the end of the year. Um,
What what will
so,
what will he do? Or what will she do?
I mean, if you, they are, so there's a thing called VLM, which is video language model,
Mm,
where they can interpret the environment around them, and then you've got the LLM where you talk to it, you know, like it is a
mm.
brain. So when you take those two together with a robot that has fully ambidextrous fingers and
Can they
limbs,
do the
which
washing up?
Next year you'll be able to get your washing up done.
Whoa. Because
Yes,
I
for the
read
price of a car.
I read someplace someone saying, I don't want AI to do my art and do my whatever. I wanted to do my washing up and I wanted to put out the bins, that those boring tasks we want robots to do, not the exciting ones.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, next year it's going to start to become, well, it's going to start to come in. There's the prediction there'll be over 1 million robots in people's homes by the end of the decade.
Wow.
So, and it looks like it's going that way. But all of this needs integrations with compute at the end of the day. It'll have its own compute and it'll make its own decisions, but they learn as a big global brain together.
Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating. You're in a great job. You know that.
Yes.
Oh, listen, thank you so much for your time today. It's been absolutely interesting. And it never occurred to me that the prompt is the IP. Of course it is, but I hadn't thought about it. That's a great eye opener for me personally. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll keep on following your progress.
Pleasure. Thanks, Julian.